Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a fabulous Wednesday. If not, you still got a little bit of time left in the day to make it better, whatever the situation is. Hopefully, it's better for you and better for your family. Today's topic, brothers and sisters, is a long off topic that we've been speaking about for years. It's been bandied about. I remember hearing about it in my younger years. The word reparations, but the word reparations was a word that was tied him to a lot of things. It was tied him to a lot of hope. It was tied him to a lot of pain. It was tied him to a lot of injustice. It was tied him to a lot of denial of opportunities and really the maintaining, if you will, of a certain class structure. It was the idea, it was the idiom of basically people saying at some point in time that your pain is not as equal as your worth. That your pain wasn't as equal as your worth. Let me tell you what I mean. When you call somebody pain in the court system, they call it punitive damages, pain and suffering. However, that pain and suffering never extended to, of course, you know who I'm talking about here in the United States. I'm talking about slaves from Africa, descendants of African slaves. And I want to also throw in, here in particular, Native Americans. The idea of America atoning or even acknowledging their wrongs has always been an issue going forth. And I mean this in the best ways. I mean this in the best ways because I throw it out there sometimes because folks don't necessarily understand why people feel this way. When I think about reparations, I think about my grandmother. I think about her mother. I think about her mother before her. And the idea that for all their pain and suffering, it's not even a smidgen of actual acknowledgement of any wrongdoing. You know, we have HR 40 that's just been, it's not been just been, but it was introduced through the Congress and it will probably get passed, but it won't make it through the Senate. Most people, particularly during this time, don't want to acknowledge the fact that America is not this pristine beacon of exceptionalism when it comes to dealing with its own people. America traditionally eats as young or enslaves as young in our case. I'm going to take a little bit of time today to talk about the idea of reparations. You know, this is something that comes out of the Civil War, where the idea was to take uh, 400 parcels of land, divide them by 10. Each person gets 40 parcels of land. It was Confederate land that was supposed to be given to the slaves. That was a part of it. Now, is that fundamentally correct? I don't know. It does feel like zero sum, but in this case, the land was taken from the Confederates, and ironically, after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, it was returned back to the Confederate whites by Andrew Johnson. Whole nother story. But somehow, some way, we still come back to this scenario in 2021 that the deal has never been done. There are, of course, instances of people receiving reparations. Holocaust survivors have received reparations. I also want to throw out there that Japanese who were put in internment camps were receiving reparations, and even his brother Coates said, you had children of people who fought in the Civil War that were receiving a pension, a soldier's pension. But even those things, brothers and sisters, inherently move away from the fact that a crime has been committed. In any other penal system here in the United States, any other penal code, if you break the law, kidnapping, if you break the law, rape, if you break the law, theft, if you break the law, perjury, if you break the law, abuse, you are somehow responsible, and there's a penance that's due. However, this has never happened, and I'm going to say this clearly, this has never ever happened with the idea and the spirit of Black existence here in the United States. I'm not going to say Black people. The idea of the spirit and Black existence in the United States, it just doesn't happen. So today, I'm going to show you, hopefully, inshallah, what I'm talking about. And we're going to start with Larry Elder, who got trounced in yesterday's California recall. I got an idea where he got trounced, but I'm going to take it from there, brothers and sisters, and then I'm going to move it from farce to facts, inshallah. And before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Sister Tana's mom, Mama Whitfield. Hope you're doing well. It's her birthday, everybody. So let's make sure that we wish her a happy, 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 happy birthday, Mama Whitfield. I know she's 20 years young, 21 years young. Tell her that's what I said, and I'm sticking to it. Make sure we give her a big shout out, Satana, and don't be cheap. Take Mama out. Don't be like taking her to get food at the gas station. Take her someplace got some tablecloths, and if people don't have paper hats, and take her to a place where you don't have to stand up and order your food. Let Mama sit down, okay? Dig into your budget. Dig into your budget. Whatever you got left of that stimulus check, make sure you take the mama to someplace nice. All right, we'll be back, brothers and sisters. This is Preacher Moss on the Shout Out Show talking about reparations. We'll be right back. Why would I do a CD called Confessions of a Muslim Comedian? And that was the idea of bringing entertainment to Muslims, for Muslims, about Muslims, but for everybody.
I got Dean in my life. Who is Dean? What you bring Dean around here?
You know how Muslims get you all hyped up? And he said, brother, you ready to be Muslim? I said, yeah. He said, you know what that means? I said, tell me, brother. He said, you ready to give up the swine? I said, yes, sir. I'm giving up the swine. He said, are you ready to give up the alcohol? I said, yes, sir. I'm ready to give up the alcohol. He said, you ready to give up the women? I said, yes, sir. I'm ready to give up the alcohol.
All right, everybody, and we're back. I want to get some quick shout outs. I want to make sure everybody is doing well. Shout out to Mama Son back on the show today. She had to get some rest yesterday. Nice to see you in the queue as well. We want to give a shout out to Sister Nancy Mustafa. Hope you're feeling better and recovering. We give a shout out to our beloved Sister Eleanor, Miss Eleanor. We hope you're doing well. Brother Kendrick, hope you're doing well as well. We also want to make sure Sister Lorraine is doing well. If you have somebody you want to shout out, feel free to shout them out in the queue. You know, this is your show as much as it is mine. I want to thank the participation and some of the good comments that I got yesterday and the day before. You know, we're trying to make this thing a little bit better. So today, brothers and sisters, let me just say up front, this is probably something that you want to jump in on. This is really not so much about the cost of human life, if you will, or the valuation of life, as much as it is the damage when people deny folks proper access to things, proper opportunities, things like that. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm going to start where this actually comes from. Many of you may or may not know Larry Elder. He actually was the Black GOP candidate in the recall for the California governor. He went against Gavin Newsom. So you have this scenario, and you know, I'm not a big Larry Elder fan. A lot of people aren't. You know, he's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to dog the brother. He makes his money. He does he does what he's going to do, and that's what it is. You know, is he Uncle Tom to me? That's a harsh word, but he's an Uncle Tom. All right, an old handkerchief head Uncle Tom, a Yazza boss, and you know, I don't like to talk about people like that. I generally don't like to talk about people like that. I generally try to keep my concerns and my voice to myself in this pursuit of trying to be a good Muslim. But even with this guy, I literally had to tell the angel taking down my bad deeds, sharpen up a pencil. Because literally you have people, brothers and sisters, and this guy ticked me off. He could have done everything, but he wanted to please these white people. Now, there's white people and there's white devils. He wanted to please the white devils so much that he made a comment to me that I believe if I was in his space, I might have put hands on him. And no one would have stopped me because you probably would have been putting hands on him too. It is the trivialization of what our brothers and sisters went through, our ancestors. As much as we may complain about COVID and bad presidents and things like that, they didn't have health care and they couldn't vote back when they were. They woke up in the morning with a certain doom reality that I am not in control of my own authenticity. So the issue of reparations came up. And you guys have heard me talk about the whole idea of white supremacy carrying this thing about zero sum. If a black man gets 2, that means, and I have 0 means he took my 2. That we can't be disconnected. White supremacy must be connected to black excellence, to black striving, to black struggle. That's why we don't have our own rap music. That's why we don't have our own jazz. Brothers and sisters, even in the business aspect of arts, we still have people that feel as though they own a piece of whatever we do. So I'm going to show this piece right here, brothers and sisters. And I want you to bear with me because I don't want you to miss it. This is a man who's considered to be fairly intelligent, talking about reparations. Now, I brought him on here because you won't find, and this is funny part, you won't find any white people talking this way. They always march out that Mr. Magoo looking Negro to tell people about black issues. He don't hang out with nothing black, 0. Only thing that was black was his chances to become governor of California. All right. So let's watch it. Don't blink. I don't want to play it again, but don't blink because you're gonna believe. I can't believe this Negro. Okay, he's talking to Candace Owens, who's also on some. She's on the white supremacy diet as well. Oh, self-hating Negroes. But look here. Did I say self-hating? I did say self-hating. Did I mean it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me throw this out here, brothers and sisters. She ain't had a black friend since the shadow was with her on a July sunny day. Okay, so I put that out there and just watch people that look like us talk about reparations.
It's slave owners.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so when people
right behind them.
By the way, when you mentioned that the UK was ahead of us, they were. Do you know that the slave owners were compensated? After they lost their quote unquote property, the government compensated slave owners.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so when people talk about reparations, do they really want to have that conversation? Because like it or not, slavery was legal. And so their property, their legal property was taken away from them after the Civil War. So you can make an argument that the people that are owed reparations, and not only just black people, but also the people whose quote property, close quote, was taken away after the end of the Civil War.
Right behind them.
By the way, when you mentioned that the UK was ahead of us, they were. Do you know that the slave owners were compensated? After they lost their quote unquote property, the government compensated slave owners.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so when people talk about reparations, do they really want to have that conversation? Because like it or not, slavery was legal.
There was no blip in the tape. I ran it twice. You know what's missing in that conversation with that woman and that man? God is missing. And God is missing. For the Muslims, Allah is missing. There's no Quran. There's no Bible. There's no Torah. There's no Haragichi. God is missing in that conversation. To hear a black man say that his ancestors were property, like he could own them too. Brothers and sisters, that's the problem. And that's the thinking. Here's the problem that I have about reparations. I have a lot of problems, as you know. But here's the problem about reparations. As well as dealing with my Native American brothers and sisters and treaties that were never honored. Why you give a Native American a treaty? He can't read your language. You put a gun to his head, say sign it. You put a gun to his wife's head, say sign it. She's pregnant. You put a gun to her stomach, say sign it. He recognizes oppression. Here's the problem with reparations. And this is what burns me up. Why are we always having to figure out the logic in everybody else's evil? Why do we have to figure out the beginning and the end and the reasoning of why people do things that are abhorrent, brothers and sisters? They're criminal, brothers and sisters. And somehow we have to come up with the logic of why they did it, right? The reason why it's somehow okay. And then number 3, we have to forgive them. Totally absconding from the fact that this is a crime. If I take a piece of paper by a sign that says, do not litter, and I drop it on the ground and the policeman catches me, I am liable of breaking the law because he caught me. Slavery, brothers and sisters, is an environmental infection, toxicity. You can see the beginning and the middle of it every day, brothers and sisters. The prisons, brothers and sisters, the schools, brothers and sisters, the ability of people who work extremely hard not to be able to get out of a certain social strata. They can't get out of it. Why? Because somewhere along the line, the deck has been stacked. And America doesn't even want to say that the deck has been stacked. Hell, they don't even want to say that there are cards involved. And if you can't bring yourself to the fact that cards are involved, where are we? Where are we? We have 2 examples in recent history, Evanston, Illinois, and we have Asheville, North Carolina, who are beginning, brothers and sisters, along with HR 40, to talk about aspects of reparations. In Asheville, you have people that laid out about $400 million to help Black folks start businesses, build homes, do education, refund. They're looking at it in the modern context of how do we give these people an opportunity, right? Evanston, Illinois. Weed is now legal in Illinois. So they're going to take the first $10 million in Evanston and put that towards somewhat of a fund. Black people don't even have a fund. We don't even have a fund, brothers and sisters. There's no ideology of a pension for a slave. Let that marinate. Let me bring some people in real quick. We're gonna shout out Sister Ree. I don't know where Sister Ree is today. I think she might be on the plane. She was planning for her vacation. Her and Juwan. Peace and blessings to them. Also, we'll give a shout out to my brother. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Little brother, how are you? Good to see you. I know you're gonna jump on here with some comments about reparations because this is our thing right here. Glad to see you on the show. Give a shout out to Mama Maisie and everybody, and Aunt Mamie and the family. Actually, I talked with Eunice today, as a matter of fact. And I want to give a shout out to Sister Aika. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for coming on the show all the way from Indonesia, Depok. Just so you guys know, all the way from Depok. We're glad to report that Sister Aika's family has recovered from COVID and other assorted illnesses, so they're back at full strength. Alhamdulillah. Next up, we want to get a shout out to Mama Son Mary Moss. She said, hearty hello to Mama Whitfield. Thanks for giving us Sultana. Oh, look at you. Oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. Don't give us a cheap Sultana, though. Make sure Sultana spent all of her lottery ticket money and take you out someplace nice. I'm going to be checking. Spend all that lottery ticket money. Shout out to my main man, Altaf Rashid. What's going on, beloved? Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you. And like I tell him, he's Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Coming all the way from Toronto, making sure the quality of the show is good on both sides of the border. Our Canadian ambassador, Altaf, thank you for coming in. Next up, Fight the Power Word, my main man. You're coming out shooting off the hip today. You can make money in business by identifying a niche and dominating that space. Elder and Owen's niche is self-hate. They make money by being the one Black friend. There's a one Black friend that nobody else want to be around. Even white people are like, what's wrong with you Negroes? I call them, you ever heard of abolition? I call them aberration Negroes. Dealing with the aberration. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We want to definitely shout out our beloved Sister Satana, our consultant producer on the show. Thank you so much, Sister Satana, for coming on the show. Now, I want to talk about this aspect of reparations because there's a book that's called From Here to Equality. It was put out by Brother Sandy Darity. He's a professor of public policy at Duke University. Full stop, full clip, full transparency. I have not got a chance to read the book. I got a couple books in front of it, but I'm going to read the book. There's so many things about reparations that people say it won't work. He puts out a number that for a true reparation to happen, you're talking about in the trillions and trillions of dollars. But what I like is that he has a formula to it. Economics is not that hard. Economics is not that hard. And I'm going to tell you why. We talked about a fiat. We talked about a fiat currency. That's what we talked about yesterday, right? We talked about fiat currency. This is what I thought about reparations. What if you make a currency for people who deserve reparations? Develop a currency for people who deserve reparations. Now, with that currency, we are able to do a number of things in terms of self-improvement, in terms of self-education, in terms of business. All right. This money can be used or placed in somewhat the format of a grant, much the same as affordable health care. We would have access to subsidies, and we can figure out what we want to do with our particular subsidy for each situation that we come with. So say you want education, you have a subsidy or you have a fiat currency that you use particularly for education, and the colleges accept that money for education. They're not breaking themselves, brothers and sisters, because guess what? The currency is what the government said is going to be or what it can be used for. The dollar is used to purchase goods and trade. That's what it's for. You need dollars to pay your taxes. You can't pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin just went this whole thing about democratizing the financial field. Why can't we have a situation whereby we say, listen, we want a fiat currency that deals specifically with Black struggle, Black suffering, and we want to be able to use it to inject things back into the economy that help the GDP, but also help us. Just a suggestion. The other thing that's really interesting is even though you can get money, even if they gave you money for reparations, they gave Black people money for reparations, they gave Native Americans money for reparations, it's never going to be enough money to undo all the negative serendipity of slavery. Things like prison, things like poor education. We've talked about education. Really, it's a miracle. The idea of how Black education and the spirit of Black education gave us historical Black colleges and universities, right? Because you're talking about less than 100 years, you're producing universities. Okay, you're producing schools that have to have the grades, the grade level schools, the small school, grammar, small grammar, elementary, middle school, high school. Back in the day, everything was taught in one building, and then you're going to send somebody to learn college material. They're going to make the leap, brothers and sisters. And you're talking about 100 years. You're talking about 100 years of, I want to say, restriction to literacy and things like that, books. So they've created this whole situation. And, it's a very positive. I hope we one day have a chance to sit down with some educators about what that miracle was. But, brothers and sisters, it's still, despite what it still is not enough to undo the damage that slavery and Jim Crow and institutional racism have done. Or I say the vestiges of white supremacy in the Black community and Black existence. So even if you gave people that money, it's almost like the spirit is damaged. And how do you pay, if you will, to correct a damaged spirit? That's the thing I begin to think about. So I'm going to run this clip, brothers and sisters. I hope you don't mind. And this is Professor again, Sandy Darity, talking about another aspect, which is the wealth gap, but it's tied into reparations. Pay close attention because he's going to put a piece of nuance in it I want everybody to hear. I want everyone to hear. And I'm going to shut my mouth and put it up here. All right.
Dr. Dirty, you were one of the various people who talked about reparations. I've quoted you quite a bit in my work. When you think about ways to address the racial wealth gap and through the lens of reparations, like what's one of the most effective steps you think can be taken immediately?
Well, I want to thank Ryan for introducing reparations into the conversation. I've done a substantial amount of work on this topic, particularly in conjunction with my partner, Kirsten Mullen, and we have a new book on reparations that will be available in April called From Here to Equality. In the final chapter, we try to sketch how you might actually execute a reparations program. I think one of the critical things that we have to recognize is the magnitude of the racial wealth gap. And I think we've talked about the racial wealth gap here, but I don't think we've offered any numbers to give people a sense of the scale of that disparity. So if you were to examine the American population as a whole, Black Americans are about 13% of the nation's population, but Black Americans possess less than 3% of the nation's wealth. What that translates into at the average is an $800,000 differential per Black and white household. That is to say, the average Black household has $800,000 less in net worth than the average white household. And I'm talking about looking at the average or the mean instead of the median, which Ryan referred to, because 94% of the wealth that is held by white households is held by white households who have a net worth above the white median. And so if we're thinking about closing the racial wealth gap, we have to think about closing it at the mean rather than at the median to absorb the full differential in the proportion of wealth that's held by the two communities. So if you were to bring the Black share of wealth at least to the Black share of the population, it would require an additional at least $10 trillion. And so the other kinds of programs or initiatives that we're talking about are not going to come anywhere close to trying to eliminate or eradicate a gap at that magnitude. And so that's why we need to turn to something like a reparations program, which is specifically aimed at building Black assets to a level that would be comparable to the level of assets that are held by white Americans on average.
So he's not talking zero sum. This guy has nailed something I've been trying to I've been trying to wrap my head around this. I got to say the last 15 years, 16 years, which he equated the fact that there is data, hard data that we can look at to establish a rubric of how you would do reparations. The 40 acres and a mule, and I'm a big believer in the 40 acres and a mule, but I'm also a big believer in understanding economics. He just gave everybody, through a public policy lens, a lesson in economics that we would never hear anywhere else. We'll hear excuses, we'll hear lies, we'll hear delays, but this guy just laid out this whole idea of what it was supposed to look like. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. Is it that far-fetched? When the I'm gonna keep it real with you. Hey man, when COVID hit, we sure did come up with some stimulus checks for everybody. We sure did come up with extra money for unemployment now, didn't they? Of course, everybody benefited from that. But think about it. Even now, we're sitting on the cups of another $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. Where do they get this money from? The government prints money. Well, hell, just print it our way. Print it our way. In an ironic twist, Dave Chappelle has a joke, a sketch about Black people getting reparations. And you can say what you want to or blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you this. The one thing that was clear in that thing was it was a free opening of spigot of money. And it's not like it hasn't happened before. It has happened. When we have a war, are you aware that what a war costs? We just finished in Afghanistan. People go, why are you going to Afghanistan? If you shut down Afghanistan 3 years ago, you could do reparations. You could do reparations. You could do $5 trillion. You do half of reparations for half the people, $5 trillion. You could have done it. You know, it's always a selectivity of where we want to put where we want to put our money or where we want to send money, distribute money. When we go to war, and think about this, people, a 20-year war, what does it cost? What does it cost? Outside of human life, what does it cost? It is a major undertaking to have a war, and an even bigger major undertaking to occupy a territory, occupy a country that you are not a part of. They're a hostile country. So we have Ibi Habibi. What was saying? What's Ibi Habibi saying? While it would be great, I can't think of a sustainable method to solve the problem in our established system. But interested to hear it. Taxes. And my brother, my big cousin, Ibrahim Moss, you are right. The central bank prints money, but wealth is now acquired by having money. Yeah. Well, you know, hey, man, would the system be any better if they gave every black person $50,000 in Bitcoin when it first came out? Would that solve it? I think everybody have it over $800,000. I bet you that. Walaikum assalam wa barakatuh, Brother Eric. Thank you for joining us. You know, the idea is that, and I call this thing, and my friend and I, we call this, it's called selective creativity. People are very creative when it's to their benefit. They're creative with their own creativity, and then they're really creative with your creativity. You know, why I say one of the things, and I may be wrong for saying this, one of the things that holds up this whole thing about reparations, brothers and sisters, is that the more so instead of the Native American, you know, I love my Native American brothers. The problem is Black resiliency in America has given these people, one, fear, two, a reason not to further empower us. Fear and reason not to empower us. Think about that. You know, the Freedmen Bureau back in the day gave up the land grant so we could have HBCUs. Can you imagine if you got a full loan? If they finance them like the Harvard, the Princeton, the Yales, the Browns, what our schools would look like, what our HBCUs would look like. And even now, they're world-class universities. We're talking Dillard, we're talking Howard, we're talking all these schools, Grambling, who somehow through resiliency and the spirit of the people have made these things, made these places world-class organizations giving high-quality education. They owe money. They make money every day. Let me shout this out. Shout out to Ibrahim. Wealth comes from owning resources that can be fairly traded at a fair value. That's why we didn't get the 40 acres in a mule. I am thoroughly convinced. That's probably one of the most dastardly things that ever happened, because that mule, brothers and sisters. Remember the story about Fannie Lou Hamer? Remember Fannie Lou Hamer? And what they did when her family was sharecropping, when they were trying, you know what they did? They killed the mule. They killed the mule. They made sure that they could not farm that land and they had to stay on there longer. Fannie Lou Hamer was still sharecropping, talking about don't let everybody turn us around. That's deep. Gloria Miller. What would the spiritual Black Americans of 1873 be outraged? Would the spiritual Black Americans of 1873 be outraged that now half America's blacks, half America's Black babies in 2021 are decapitated in the womb? Would they be disgusted by Black leaders who look the other way? That's a tough question. That's a real tough question. I can't situate myself in 1873. Because you probably have people in 1873 said, what kind of life am I going to bring into the world? Who readily dealt with things like rape and all kinds. Because people don't understand. They didn't have psychologists and mental health therapists back in the day in 1873. Heck, in 1973 we didn't really have them. So you're talking about the spirit of the people, but there's that thing that says I have to compartmentalize this thing to survive. We are a culture right now that we don't understand the aspect of surviving because we're not connected to history. We're not connected to history. It's like, hey, you take an apple, eat a bite of it, throw it down. Well, you're never gonna understand the fact that that apple had a life process, and the person had to plant that apple. It's a process till it got to you. So, I'm not sure about that one, Sister Gloria. I'm gonna have to think on that one. Who we got next? I know we're over, Sister Tana. I know we're over. Let me run through them. Ibrahim says, own resources that can be fairly traded and you become rich. That's true. Ibi Habibi says, I agree with you. Government spending is stupid. Welfare could be established if there was an effort for it. Sister Gloria, 47 out of 100 black babies are brutally dissected in the womb delivered. I got that one. Habibi said, I don't think you should pay with money you earned as reparations for an act you didn't commit or weren't responsible for. Okay. I'm gonna listen to that one. You're welcome, brother. Thanks for this discussion. Habibi, you are correct. See, you won't condemn Planned Parenthood murdering babies in the womb. Okay. Obviously, you don't know a Muslim. But we'll go from there. Thank you so much. I'm gonna throw that one out. Sister Gloria, you do a little homework. Do a little homework before you come on the show. All right. I'm out. Okay, there you go, Sister Gloria. Well, I'm gonna show you how this goes. You have a blessed day. All right, because I don't want to get up in your business. Have a blessed day, Sister Gloria. All right. Boy, you having a bad day. Can we put her up on the screen? I'll put her up on the screen. Sister, you are without honor. Okay. Clearly you just jumped on this show. Maybe you need to go to the Fox rendition of the Shout Out Show. Enjoy yourself. Well, sister, if you want to connect, see, these are choices, sister. And I'm gonna give you a break, Sister Gloria, but I'm gonna tell you something. Ain't no punks here on the Shout Out Show, okay? You ain't bullying. I don't know you. I don't know who you are. I don't know who your mama is. I don't know who your daddy is. I don't know what you went through. And I don't give a damn what you went through. When you come on the show, you respectful. You say hello. How are you? You got a position, put it in there. But you ain't punking nobody. Are we clear? You're not punking nobody. And if you want to come back on the show and do it again, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Ain't nobody weak up in here. Ain't no moist Muslims on this telecast, okay? If you have a problem, you had to go handle your business that way, that's your business. But I'm going to tell you something. You ain't going to worry me or anybody else on this show about personal decisions. Got it? Good. All right. Let's get to our end. Let's get to our roll credits. So, and I left my brother out. Here we go. You didn't commit the crime, but you benefited from its demise on African Americans. It is true. So let's get this straight, brothers and sisters. Sister Gloria Miller, find another show. All right. That's my suggestion to you. You find another show. That's right. Find another show. Maybe Larry Elder and yourself can do your own show with Carolyn Owens, and then you could be 3 Black friends as opposed to fight the power. That's what you could do, because you need some love, sister. You don't never come up on a show like that. You understand? All right. Yoko, this man is a fraud. Don't follow preachers who promote Black genocide. This is a gay man fruitcake. Boy, y'all got some folks out here today. So I'm gonna tell y'all some Yoko that I'm gonna give it to you straight. It's a good thing that this is virtual and live stream because we y'all definitely got some moistness issues. Okay, so let's get to the bottom of the show. We have some folks that came on who obviously need love in their lives and they're missing God. All right, there we go. I had to say that. You're missing God. So we'll give a shout out, brothers and sisters, to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Check them out. And listen, Gloria, Yoko, if you want a quality Islamic graduate education, you can go to Bayan Online and you can sign up for next semester's classes, 2022 spring classes. If you want a quality, listen to me, a quality Islamic graduate level education, you can learn Islamic studies, Islamic leadership. You can also learn about Islamic education. And guess what? You could be a Muslim chaplain if you go to the MDiv program. There you go. Don't worry about big brother, big cousin. I'm good. You know, I have to let them roll out. I have to let them roll out. Hey, Satana, we hit the big time. We got the special ones on. Alhamdulillah. So that's our show for today. Gloria, Yoko, you are more than invited not to come back on the show. Have a good day. Assalamu alaikum.